Hi, and welcome to Animation Deconstructed. My name is Shul Gonsalves, and today we're going to be taking a look at this coin animation, which looks like 3D, but it really isn't. We're going to be looking first at this one on the left, which is a bit more simple, just to get the idea down of how this is constructed, and then we'll look at this more complex one on the right, which you can see it looks like a full 3D kind of model. Alright, let's jump straight into it. I'm going to bring in some footage here just so we start from the beginning. I've got this kind of artwork right here. I'm going to drop it down onto a composition. I'm going to make this composition a bit bigger, so 800 by 800. If you want to get there quickly, you can just go to composition settings, and change it over there. My composition time is about 5 seconds. I'm probably only going to use 2 seconds of this just to spin it around. But what we want to do first of all is let's get this naming convention to be something more simple. So coin top, I'm going to call this. I'm just going to change the layer color. And then what we want to do is we're going to turn on the 3D switch so that we can rotate this in the 3D space. But what we want to do is we want to create that kind of beveled 3D look to this coin, and if I just hit R and rotate this at the moment, it just looks like a paper cutout. So we're going to do this by duplicating this layer and pushing it back just slightly. But there's an easier way than going into each layer and pushing it back 10, 20, 30, 40 pixels at a time. So I'm going to duplicate once, and I'm going to call this extrusion 1, and I'm going to duplicate this about 10 times. Well, let's do 20 just so that we get a really tight kind of fit. Okay, so we've got 1 to 20. Now this is just a personal preference. I like it to go 1 to 20 downwards. So an easy way to kind of flip this around is just to select the layer that you want to be your top layer, then shift select the last layer, Control X, Control V, and it'll paste it in the other way. I'm going to drag this below, and I'm going to recolor these just so I can see them all together. Now the whole idea of this is that we are going to parent this to that, but the power is that each one of these will be parented to the other, and I'll do this quickly just with a few of these and solo it so I can explain this better. I'm going to change the active camera to a custom view just so that we can see this, and I'm going to zoom in. Let me just turn these on. I've got it up to there, so there we go. Bring up the position by pressing P. And I want to push this back in space, but you'll see that each one of these doesn't move. It stays at a 0 point to the one above, and if I move this back, you can see that it's actually connected exactly where the other one is. Now there's two ways to do this, and we can either shift select all of these and move them back all at once, or we can do something more simple. I'm going to unsolo those, and I'm just going to move ahead and just parent these all to the layer above. Now the reason I created so many layers was, as you could see, there were gaps starting to form as you pushed it further back. And as long as you keep it quite tight, you won't see those gaps. So what I want to do is I want to select the position of the first extrusion layer, go to Edit, Copy with Property Links, select all the other layers and Control V. Now you'll see all the positions have some code on them that is pointing to this one. And instead of moving them all back 10, we can just move this one. I'm just going to move it back 5 or 2, so it's really tight. Let's go back into our active camera view. Now if I rotate the top coin, we will see, it's going to keyframe there, 1 revolution, F9 for easy ease, and spacebar to play. Now there's one more thing that we need to correct, is the back layer is not flipped. So we're just going to select that. There's 2 ways we can do this. We can either rotate this around, or we can just go to scale, unlink that, press -100 on the first one, and when we go around you'll see that it has flipped. And if I do this slowly, you can see what happens. We just basically scaled it in the opposite direction to flip it horizontally. That's the basic premise of how we're going to create this coin here, and I'm just going to move forward, and you'll see that we have the A, which has been extruded separately. We have this kind of indent over here, and if we just rotate it this way, you can see that this whole kind of vector coin, which is the power of this, is that you can actually keep how you've created your design in Illustrator to look exactly the same in After Effects, instead of getting these lighting settings and cell shaders in 3D which don't match the rest of your artwork. So I'm going to drag this in there, and I'm going to double click to bring in my artwork. So I'm going to bring in this Illustrator file. I'm going to double click. I want to keep this at document size. This will make sure that everything is centered at all times and all the layers are the same size. Also, if you want to update your artwork, it's going to be easier to update that, and the positions of everything will stay the same. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to just rename this as well. 3D coin. I'm also just going to show you what I've done in the Illustrator document. So let's just turn off these top layers. I have a background layer. I have an inside layer. I have this little bar here, which I created to fix any part of, because I need to create a hole over here in order to utilize this space here and have this area come above this area, because I want to just play with that extrusion. And you'll see when I'm working with it in After Effects what I'm talking about, where you get some gaps in the artwork when you create holes. I've got this shadow, and I have the top text, all vectors, and yeah, so we can make this as big and as small as we want in After Effects. Now animation will look great. Okay, as you can see, we have this kind of bevel on the outside. It goes in and then it comes back up with the text. So let's open this up. We have our layers there. I'm also just going to recolor each one, so as we move along we will, let's just make that blue, actually it's the shadow. Pink. This is our inner, so I'm just going to rename this, and this is our outer. Just make this 2 different colors, and that should be good. I will work with the same amount of layers that I did before. I think 20 should be plenty. So let's make all these 3D. But I first want to look at creating this kind of hole in this layer here. So I am going to use an instance of this inner. So let's just duplicate this, drop this down, hide it, and if I use the layer above as my alpha inverted matte, it's going to create a hole inside there. Now if I turn the inside on, you'll see that discrepancy I was talking about where you can see the gap between the two artworks. And this is just why I created this trim to just overlap that area. With that said, because, let's just go back to the demo, we want this to come out above and that to go in, I want this to sit above the inside. So I'm going to bring this up, and I'm also going to pre-compose it with that bevel trim. So Control Shift C to pre-compose. I'll call this outer coin. That's fine. It should be good. And we can go ahead. So the shadow itself is going to move to how many layers that we decide, because the shadow has to sit somewhere in the middle of all these other layers. And we'll decide that when we decide to turn off how many layers in the inside here to create that bevel. But let's just create the layers. I'm going to fast forward through this. You've seen it in the basic coin before this. So let's get to it. Okay, so because this coin is going to turn around, you will have that shadow twice. So I'm going to just duplicate it so that I've got the layers ready. I think let's wait until later until I can show you exactly how I'm going to create that inner area by turning off layers, and then we can move these into place. So we will turn them off for now. And I'm also going to shy these layers. So before that, let's just copy the position with property links. And I want to put it on the shadows as well because they're going to fall within this logo area. And paste. I'm going to shy these so that I can just clean up my working area there with the layers. Same thing, just edit, copy with property links, paste, and shy. Okay, so we're back. We have our master layers of extrusion, and I just want to make sure that all these are also pointing to a common place. Okay, so everything's rotating perfectly. Let's just put this at -15 so we can see what's happening, or -35. Looks good. Something else I want to do before we move ahead. So we can either choose to bring up that position as well. We can either choose to select all of these and move these all back together, or we can link this to a little controller and we just have a slider to move about. So this isn't required. You can actually do this exactly how the file is set up, but I would like to just show the technique so you can learn it for more complex kind of work. I'm going to go to Layer, New, Null Object, and I'm going to add an effect. I'm going to go to Expression Controls and say Slider Control. Now essentially what I want to do is just link the Z position for all of this, and we can either type a long-winded kind of expression, or we can just right click the position and say separate dimensions. I'm going to do that for all three. Now this just makes it a lot easier. I'm going to this one here, drag that up. Let's just lock this for now. And point these all at the slider. I'm going to unlock that. Hit the enter key, rename this to controller extrusion. And we can just close all these up now. So with that done, let's just see what looks good. Maybe 4. And if we rotate this around, you'll see that it's still just like the more simple coin that we had. I'm actually going to make that 3. It's just a bit big at the moment. Okay, so we want to take away a few of these layers on the inside in order to create that extrusion. And I'm thinking about 5 layers would be good. So I'm going to unshy this. I'm going to move down to where the inner is, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hide that, and already we can see that is looking a lot better. So we're going to do the same from the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Turn that off. But now we are still left with our shadows that aren't in the right place. So we have already pasted the position linkage from this extrusion right here. So all we need to do is, so what I want to do is I want to unrotate this, if that's a word, take off the extrusion down to 0. Let's turn these shadows back on. I'm going to move it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm going to move the other one at the top here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over there. And I don't want there to be any gap between this one and this one. I don't want there to be an extrusion between that. And we'll actually see if this works. If not, we can just parent one more down. So there. And this would be the opposite. Okay, turn that on to 3. Our shadow's over there so we can see it. But let's just rotate this 180. And our shadow is showing on the other side. Last thing we need to do is just flip the actual A and the D on the other side, and we can just go to the middle of this area here, so about 11, there's 20 layers. Go to size, unlink, and go -100. And there we have it. So let's just shy that. Let's also just animate this. -1. And we will do an X rotation from there to 4 as 1 revolution as well. Select them all. Hit the F9 key to easy ease. Spacebar to play. Okay, so taking a look at this, we've got some kind of issue with the this area here showing through as we're rotating. So there's an easy way to kind of fix this, is just to make the layer this yellow ramp effect. So what we can do, unshire the layers. We only want the outer to work with, so I'm going to solo these two. With this one selected, I'm going to go to gradient ramp, double click that, and I'm going to just hide that for now. I'm going to pick this color right at the top here, and I'm going to pick that color right at the bottom there. Last thing we need to do is just move these 2 points up and down. You can either click it there, hold shift, move down, and do the same over there, or you could do it in the actual composition area just by moving this around. Now if we turn it on, we just have that. So let's copy that, select all the other layers, Control V, except the last one, Control V, unsolo those 2 layers. Okay, so now our coin should look pretty smooth, but I do see a little more artifacts just around here. And another way just to clean that up is just to, it's on this layer here and on the back. We can just add an inner outer key. I'm going to say about 3 pixels. Actually, let's just solo this so I can show you. It just eats away at the layer. We can actually make this less. One pixel should be enough. Paste it on there, zoom out, and we have our 3D coin. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and till next time.